Hey, good morning, Matt.
Good morning, George. How you doing today?
I'm doing great today. I'm doing great. Really excited. It's a really fun episode number 111. We're doing episode setting up a SharePoint part two, and this one's gonna be really exciting. So, before we get into that, though, and dive deep into the content, but this is like a real interactive show and tell kind of episode. We're gonna go over who we are. We're Valiant. We're a IT managed service provider located in New York. We work all across North America, and what we do is we take care of your IT for you. And a really simple way to put it. And Matt and I do this live stream every week. Unfortunately, our co-host Megan couldn't make it this week, so I'm filling in. She does a much better job than I do usually at this part, but sometimes you just got to go with it. So a little bit about what we're talking about today, and then I'm going to hand it over to Matt because Matt did all the heavy lifting on putting this together. So last week we showed the really basics of setting up a SharePoint site, where you just like turn it on and some of the real like low level stuff. But today we're gonna go with some of the customizations and how to make that kind of what's called a company page. And so a bit of planning, a bit of things that are built into SharePoint. The product has gotten much more customizable, easier to use. Used to be really programmatic, and you need developers to do it, and it was like a whole thing. So, Matt, take us through.
I got stage fright.
Don't be scared. It's okay.
Yeah, So last week we just created a quick SharePoint site. It wasn't any terribly complex process, and I think that was the point of it, to show how easy it was to get
Right.
something started. Planning in anything that we do in business is important, but when you're working with SharePoint, I find it to be so simple to make work the way that you want to, that it's sometimes fun and valuable to just do a little bit of exploring in it and see what you can do out of the box. Because once you have an idea of some of the features that you're able to get in place and really make work for you, that's when the ideas will come together. And I feel like that's where the plan really begins. If you're using Microsoft 365 in your organization already, it's sitting here waiting to be used.
Correct.
You're paying for it either way. So I personally, and I if you don't agree with me, please do share. Um, think that it's a great thing to use as a sandbox the first time you work with it.
Yep.
Kick the tires a little bit, understand how you can use it, and then you put your plan together and really put together a site that's going to be something that you're able to use to post company information and
Right.
really enable a higher level of collaboration among your team members in your company, because it does become a bit of like a virtual watering hole almost, especially if you're doing it as a team
Yeah.
site. It's really more about communication, much more than just pushing information out to your staff.
Right, right. It's not
So,
it's not it's not just a based in your kind of classic company intranet or, as you said, the company page kind of thing where it's
mhm.
much when integration into Teams, it extends that the utilization and the collaboration uh, throughout the entire conversation with someone. Like, hey, we can store files, we can have a central hub of information, a shared calendar. There's some really cool pieces to it to like operate and work with your customers and your internal staff. So super powerful.
Yeah. So without further ado, I'm just going to ask Mr. SharePoint to come up on screen with us. Hey, there he is. How you doing?
Right.
Um,
So explain to us who Rust and Paint is, Matt. What is Rust and
Rust,
Paint?
Rust and Paint is one of the premier businesses that provide industrial coatings and industrial coating accessories to businesses around the world. And they have a unique business model. Now, of course, I did say industrial coatings and coatings accessories because I think one of the founders was a big fan of King of the Hill and how they used to sell propane and propane accessories, and they kind of just rolled with it. And apparently, it's worked out well for them.
Yes.
They've been doing well over the years, and they've contracted us to help them kind of make the most of SharePoint, which is something that they've had for quite
Yeah.
some time and haven't really used. Was that
Great.
a good enough
Right.
story?
Yeah, I think it sounds exactly like the perfect Rust and Paint introduction to me. They also have some overseas operations, which we'll get into in a
Yeah,
second. To show some little things
absolutely.
we could do to kind of include our overseas folks or people outside the office or outside of even the
Mhm.
normal time zones. So,
Now, if
um,
if you
yeah,
recall, last week we posted a news item in the SharePoint site. I think that was the first thing that we had done after creating it. And I had put that, pizza day is Friday. It is the best day of the week, but I wanted to get a little bit more realistic with this and show people what the company news section on this start page can look like. So we've gone ahead and we've created a few articles here. If we click on "Let's paint the town red while preventing oxidation," there isn't a whole lot here, but you'll see that there's a photo that's somewhat contextually appropriate. People are celebrating. We've got a little bit of content here. We can see it's been viewed by 5 people, or at least it's been viewed 5 times. This is neat. I feel like every time I jump into SharePoint, most of the time that I jump into it, it's for the sake of doing work and not building out ideas like this. But there are on-page analytics that are available now in SharePoint. And
Right.
that's great. It's a great way to get a sense of whether or not staff are actually looking at the information that's being put out. And you can do that over a period of time. And I love this. I'm not sure what the name of this type of chart is, but it's very much like what they use in GitHub for commits to code. Um,
A scatter chart?
no,
No.
I'm going to look it up, and we'll talk about it at some point, because we should do an episode on data visualizations at some point anyway.
That's a
But I
great
love this.
topic.
I just love seeing the different shades and knowing that those are the times of peak activity over this course of time that's
Right.
being displayed. Anyway, simple post just for the sake of demonstrating. And we have 2 others here. And you'll see that there's a little bit of priority given to the most recent article. That way your eye is drawn to it. There are different ways of displaying company news here, and we'll just show those really quickly because everyone's going to have something that they want that's a little different. Click here to edit the web part, and you can see that we've actually got 6 different selections. So we're using top story, which is my personal favorite. If you want something that's a little bit more direct, you could always go with a list. Side by side, we'll place posts side by side, but since we only have 3, it's not really going to make much of a difference here. Hub news, another more of a horizontal orientation. Carousel is really nice if you're doing a lot of photo heavy work, especially if you're, say, like a marketing or communications company and
Right.
you've got a lot of video content or photos from events or initiatives that are going on. That can be incredibly handy. And there is the good old Microsoft tiles, which
Very classic.
yeah, classic in the outdated way. It reminds, what is it? It's from
Con-
like Windows 8, I think,
I
is where
think
this came from.
that was when this first emerged to Windows 8. Yeah, it was the interface after. Yeah.
So, it's a bad association.
I-
But
if you were showing Contoso News or Northwind Traders, then you would use those as your
that's
demonstration.
just a quick, I just want to quickly say something to Microsoft. Hey, Microsoft, if you brought back Clippy, I would make every single thing within Valiant use that interface. But you're not gonna, so we
They're
can
not
just.
going to bring Clippy. Clippy's long gone, unfortunately. Poor guy.
So company news. It's a great kind of part, a web part, as they call it, a widget, if you just want to be really simple about it, to a SharePoint site. And it's great that it's got the flexibility to allow you to display it in a way that you think is going to work best for you and your team. Drew is right. Contosa for the win.
That's right. There you go.
Long live Clippy. This is a very, very, very positive Microsoft stream we're doing today. I feel good
Yes.
about it. So company news. We went over that. We're going to do another episode of like this in the next 6 weeks or so, and we're going to take it a step further and kind of dive into a little bit more detail after we've kind of like previewed some of what can happen out of the box here. So we're going to go ahead and republish the page so we can get away from all the edit details. And let's look here at shortcuts. This is another section that's added by default to a SharePoint site, and it's great. It's a great way to have shortcuts. I mean, look, Rust and Paint, they rely on Valiant for their tech support, for their improvements in operational resiliency, data protection, you name it. So of course we're going to be the first people in their list of links, right? Who are you
Yep.
going to call? Valiant. And then human resources. Put that afterwards.
Yep.
It's so weird to say it that way, but
Yeah.
hey,
Okay.
it's just
Sure.
general.
We'll take
Yeah.
it.
Now we have upcoming events. This is something that I find to be incredibly handy to have, especially within a SharePoint team site. It's a great way to quickly run down anything that's going on within your company at, say, a group or higher level. Um, when you create a SharePoint site, you have the option to create a SharePoint group, just a grouping of individuals and calendars and other things. And what we did here is we used the calendar that's associated with the SharePoint site, and we placed a few different events in it that are upcoming. So as you can see at 11 o'clock, the team from Rust and Paint, they've got an International Coatings 2022 meeting. Now, I hope that's like some kind of nice event down in Florida. Get a couple of
Yes.
days, little sun, learn about some coatings, rust prevention, that kind of a thing. And tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, they've got an operations tabletop review, and I would have to
Right.
assume that we're probably involved in that,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah,
That's something.
absolutely. It was part of it is, both a facilitator and as a participant in some
Yeah,
degree.
and
So we want
Rust
exactly
and Paint happened to be the subject of the first time we did a tabletop exercises stream last summer. And if you recall, we actually had our own technical mishap in the middle of it when my internet and power went down,
right.
which
I do.
it
I
was
do.
it was like the perfect timing in the middle of an exercise on tabletops. So I tell you, we're going to do a tabletop 2.0 in the near future as well. I think that'll
Be
be a lot of
great.
fun.
I think
And
great.
what we're going to do is we're going to share all the results and we're going to store them inside of this Rust and Paint SharePoint site to bring a little bit
Yeah.
more realism to it. We're going to have
We could use it for like a natural disaster of our facility down in Kentucky.
Mhm,
We could do something around some cyber. There's so many different things we could do. Power outage in our sales office. I mean, who knows?
absolutely.
Anything could happen.
Look, you know what? Whether it's in the future or the past, we're going to figure it out. Speaking of past, even with upcoming events here, we can peek into the past events that have happened recently. So we can see that on Tuesday there was a financial report preparation meeting for quarter 1 that went
That's
on.
right. Quarter's almost over. You only got 7 days left. I mean, yeah, close making numbers. So
That's it. You look. What is it? You either you get the car or the steak knives, or what is
we're
it?
fired. It's
Yeah,
first prize a Cadillac, second prize steak knives, third prize. Well, you're out of here.
that's it. 7 days.
And never forget, always be closing. So
Anyway, on to the next item. And this is one that we've actually done a video for, and I'll post a link to that in just a moment. But a suggestion box. So many people have moved to a hybrid work model, and I mean, even before then, the idea of the old kind of like tin box where you put suggestions into is kind of antiquated. I mean, it's even been used as a joke on The Office, and I think if you have the distinction of being used as a joke in The Office, it's probably time to hang it up. That and like DVD
yeah,
players. So there you go.
yeah, it's time.
Now this is super simple to do. All we did was add a Microsoft Forms web part in here, and it allowed us to reference an existing form. So we created a form in Microsoft Forms, simple one question. It doesn't retain user data, so there's a certain level of anonymity to it, and it'll be emailed to. Actually, no, it doesn't get emailed. We're going to do that in a future episode. What happens is it simply gets recorded in a SharePoint folder, and then we get notified of it. And instead of walking through how we put that together, we actually have a full video. That's a how-to, step by step, which has gotten some really great responses from folks. It's
Right.
been helpful. So if anyone's looking to learn how to embed Microsoft Forms into SharePoint, definitely check that out. If you have questions, send them over. We love getting them in.
Yep.
Uh,
Super useful. Forms is a very powerful tool. I think it's underutilized at times. That and just the power automate pieces. This and
in
combining the
fact,
two, just
I,
monstrous.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch the recording of this today because of how many ideas are coming from it. But we should do a stream that talks about NPS scoring with Microsoft Forms because that's a feature that's available. That's a great way for a small business to start doing some polling of their customers to
Correct.
understand exactly what their satisfaction level is. And that's it's again, if you're using Office 365, you already have the tools. So
Correct.
we'll just go ahead and make one of those. Let's continue with this though. There's so many little things I want to get through, and then I'm excited to do another one of these where we actually get under the hood and show people exactly how it's been done.
We have a
Uh,
great question, by the way, that came in from our indomitable Stephen Kaup.
let's see what we've got here. Is this a SharePoint site? Mr. Kaup, what I'd like to do is suggest that you contact Valiant Technology. We have a number of trainings on collaboration platforms. In fact, I believe the people from Rust and Paint have their lunch and learn on next Monday. So maybe we can get you an invite into that. What do you
Yes,
say?
it sounds good, but
Both
simply
these
put,
friends.
Stephen. But simply, that's a great question. And in many ways, SharePoint is that kind of information hub, information radiator
It's an
that you can
aggregator. Mhm.
aggregator. You can pull everything into it. and be it from your data storage, which is what a lot of people use it for, just basic files for unstructured data, but you can also use it for structured data and build a web front end for it. There's a lot of workflows. We have a number of customers I know that do work on this for other customers, for their customers, and they build very complex data management pieces where like check in, check out, and you can really kind of dive deep into the guts of it. So at the top level, the short answer is absolutely yes. That it is an information radiator and it pulls all together. A lot of it's a bit of work, a bit of doing in terms of just getting the pieces of it, but it's all very straightforward pieces and just constant. This is kind of a constant like what's Microsoft adding? I think they've added like 2,000 features in the past 2 years or whatever it's been. It's like nuts the number of stuff that they're adding in, and some of it is around SharePoint and making it easier to utilize. So definitely take a look at it, and especially the pieces around the documents and the document management is really powerful.
Yeah, and thank you, Stefan, for the question. And just be forewarned that I'm going to follow up with you afterwards because I think that you just identified a great use case that we can do another stream on. We can
Right.
do a basic budgeting workflow. We've got our IT budgeting spreadsheet that we make available for free from the website, and it's actually gotten quite a few downloads. Maybe we can take that and put it into SharePoint and have some notifications built out as people make different changes to the document and the budget information. So I will be messaging you on Microsoft Teams shortly. Um,
Great.
so let's get back here. This is great. These are kind of like I would almost consider them to be like accessories or garnishes, if you will. If this was a dish, today's weather, it's something that we can get from anywhere, but I think it's very handy to have in one place, and it's something that people want to know about on a regular basis. So why not give them these smaller reasons to kind of jump into SharePoint, knowing it's going to be there? If it's something that they're
Right.
looking at already, let's throw a couple of extras in there. So we can see that our Dublin Island branch office for Rust and Paint, they're having a pretty nice day out there, 62 and partly sunny, where we're stuck with 44 and cloudy.
I know. Ugh. You know
It,
what? Spring's coming though, so we can't get too upset. It's
yeah,
coming.
we're in that middle area. And the same
Exactly.
thing goes with just having a clock in multiple time zones. I don't know about you, George, but dealing with people in multiple time zones can get confusing. And I mean, even
You mean
putting
our
watches
you
at
mean,
separate
you mean
watches,
our
yeah,
you mean
it's
our clients in Los Angeles and
Los Angeles
California?
and everywhere in between. And I mean, like
Yes, exactly.
I'm wearing a watch today that's got two separate clocks on it because I don't want to have to do the math in my head. And even here, you can see we have it set up in New York and Los Angeles, and it actually has a label that says they're 3 hours behind.
Super
That's just
useful.
so handy. It's the kind of thing that you see, and it just starts getting into your head, and you start thinking about things a little bit differently when it comes to time. And that's why I personally love adding the kind of like world clock kind of section here. The more places you have, the more items you can add. And just for the sake of demonstration, it's so easy to add a new area. George, where else is the good folks from Rust and Paint located?
Well, they have a small outpost in Germany,
Germany.
in Cologne,
Hmm. How do you spell that?
Colon. Yep. Uh, Cologne, right there. They take Germany out there. It came up there. See that bottom one?
Right here?
Yep. Oh,
Oh, that's Panama. That's my
that's
people.
Panama. I was like,
Hold on.
wait a second.
We're opening up a couple of additional offices real quick. There we go. So we got
You there?
Cologne in Central America. Going to hang out with my aunts and uncles, and then we're going to head over to Germany later for some TPS reports.
Yes.
And we're simply going to republish the page, and now we have the different time zones. How great is that?
Perfect.
So
There you
simple.
go. So,
Now, given that Rust and Paint does have so many people spread out across the globe, because I don't know how else you'd have an even coding of their products if they weren't spread out properly. They're working on a hybrid workplace initiative, and the tool that they're using for this is Microsoft Planner, which is a really, really nice, lightweight implementation of the Kanban methodology. I think it's something we've gone through before, and if not,
it's
we'll
very
do another
cool.
stream on the topic.
Super powerful tool. We use it internally. It's
Mhm.
I highly recommend taking a look at it. It's probably one of the best free tools in the
It,
Microsoft ecosystem.
it's incredibly handy. It's not really a one-to-one comparison to the methodology in a more classic sense,
Right.
but what they have there works really well. And certain team members have been tasked with managing this hybrid workplace initiative, and not everyone needs to know every detail of every task that's being done, but it is nice to give them a bit of a sense of where it is, what the status of the project is. So what we've done here is we've created a web part that pulls information in from our project in our project in Microsoft Planner. Gosh, too many P's there. And we're simply displaying the status of different tasks that exist. Right now, we can see that there are 4 in progress and 1 has been completed. So, either this is a project that's just getting moving, or maybe there is a bit of a hiccup. Maybe that's why they're having the tabletop exercises tomorrow, to figure out if there are any risks around what they want to do. But I think it's really nice to be able to have just something like this as a simple widget for people to just have at a glance to understand what's going on within the company and any initiatives that are going on.
Right.
Now, in fact, even building this out gave me a bunch of ideas for our own work, and maybe we'll
Right.
talk about that in a future episode as well. If we go back here on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see that there's an activity pane, activity web part. And this is another item that is added to a SharePoint site by default. I find it to be incredibly handy, especially, say, for our sales and marketing SharePoint, because we can see, like, if someone's updated an agreement or changed a proposal or done something to a template. And, if you want to dive a little bit deeper, there is the documents web part. And since last week, I just went in and I created a bunch of fake folders just to kind of populate it a little bit here. And opening something like a Word document from SharePoint is incredibly simple. I mean, let's just do that really quickly. Click.
Here we are.
Yeah. Hey,
Our
look,
stream notes
that's our stream notes from last
last
week, right?
week. There you go.
And it was just a matter of a single click. And if I were on my cell phone and I had access to the site, I could do the same thing on a tablet, you name it. If it's a relatively new internet-enabled device that's capable of getting on the web, there's a very good chance you're going to be able to get to SharePoint.
Cool.
Almost done. Oh, we're making good time with this today, too.
I'm very excited. Yes, I know.
Everything we've talked about so far has either been information that team members at Rust and Paint have generated, whether it's news updates or documents or whatever you got there. Now we're going to move on to pulling information out from external sources. And we've got 2 here. There is a feature in SharePoint that allows you to add a Twitter web part. And it's super simple to work with. In fact, we're going to just go ahead and edit it really quickly.
Cool.
If you click here, let's go back down to the web part, click edit. We'll see that all you need to do is provide a Twitter username or a link to a Twitter account, and it will begin pulling that information. In fact, let's just see how quickly it works. Let's change to Valiance. Oh, hey, look, that's me talking right now in the shirt and everything.
Yes. Pretty right.
As you can see, it's incredibly quick. It's easy to use. It's just a matter of adding a web part. In fact, let's just quickly add another one just to show people how simple it is. Twitter. Yeah, let's leave it as @Microsoft for now, because I can't think of a Twitter account that I'd want to display here. And there we go. Look at that.
So
Microsoft Twitter.
will it display both of them or just one at a time?
It will display both of them.
Oh,
It
very
won't,
cool.
it won't aggregate them. It won't mix them together. But you can add, I'm not sure if there's even a limit really that's been imposed. It's more about usability than anything else. You wouldn't want to have like 15 Twitter feeds on a page, most likely. But it does make it very handy, especially if, like, say, there are industry organizations that you pay attention to, that you follow, or partner companies that you want to make sure that your staff are a bit up to date on what they've got going on, and they've got an active Twitter feed. You just throw it in here, and they can see it from one place. Now, on the right-hand side, Coding's World, which I had found earlier this week, and is a strangely interesting site. I mean, industrial coatings are not exactly my thing, but I got pulled into a couple of pieces of content here, and it was because of how much was made available to the SharePoint site by simply ingesting their RSS feed. Almost all websites that have content in a blog or editorial format are going to have an RSS feed, and if you can get that link, which is typically very easy to find, you can have their information syndicated directly into your SharePoint site. And
So powerful.
it is, and it can be used for many different reasons. Like I said, here we're using an industry publication, I guess it would be, RSS feed, but it's important to make sure that even the team members of a company know what's going on in that company, or at least sort of like the public facing side of it they may not always be exposed to. So right here would be a great place if Rust and Paint's website had an RSS feed with, say, a blog. pull it directly in here so that people are seeing the content that's being posted publicly from inside of SharePoint. They don't have to take the extra step of going to the website and seeing what's new and what's not. They can figure it out right from here.
Great
And
to hear.
to personally, that definitely helps me with my own engagement efforts. Where I'm taking steps out of my way that may lead to distractions. I'm just going to go here and look at what I want and click on what I find interesting. And that's
Right.
definitely going to raise the likelihood of me finding something interesting, having a conversation with someone that may result in a new idea or some kind of activity that grows the business. So that's why I love seeing stuff from outside sources come into areas like this. We had a couple of other things that we wanted to cover today with navigation, but I want to share. I think I want to save that for a few weeks from now
Yeah.
when we come back to Rust and Paint after doing a little bit more work on it. And we're gonna do a before and after with the next one, almost like a one of those makeover shows on like Discovery.
Exactly, and I think that's when we'll do some other integrations and other pieces that really talk to it directly. So I think there's just so much in this.
Mhm,
It's
mhm.
such an in-depth. Like feel we could spend many live streams on, which is great. We love
Oh,
doing it.
it is great, and I love the fact that even today we could use it without saying like, "Well, click here to do this and do that." This is just about showing what's possible, and without putting hours and hours of time into planning. It's to get
Right,
people excited about using SharePoint and realizing what they can do with it. And as time goes on, because I think this is sort of becoming its like little series that'll run parallel to other things that we're working on, we're going to let this site mature and we're going to bring some actual use cases in. Maybe we'll bring some other people on board with it. Like I'd love to see Stefan come in and talk with us about something that would be related to financial tracking or
right,
budgeting and how we could use some of the features in SharePoint to automate some processes or at least make sure that we're using notifications in a way that helps reduce delay between steps in a
right,
process, things like
right.
that. So that's an exciting thing to work on. Now, next week, we are going to be switching gears. We're going to get back into cybersecurity for a little bit. It's always a great
Yeah,
topic, and this particular topic is one that's a little, I don't want to say
close,
it's close
close,
to
close
home,
to home.
a little bit obscure, meaning it's not sort of like the top 5 things that most people would talk about in this area, but techniques used to sidestep multi-factor authentication.
Correct. I think it's one of the ones that as more and more firms are adapting multi-factor authentication due to insurance regulations, kind of the pressure from their IT provider, internal needs, that sort of thing. Particularly insurance, I think, is the real driver on that.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of attacks against the MFA system solutions that are not technical per se, but are very much social engineering. So we're going to break down some of those, get down to it. They're very common, unfortunately, and they're going to get more common, and they're really easy to fall for, and really easy to be fall prey to. So I want to do that. So I think it's really exciting. I think I'm psyched to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about something that is very topical, and especially with sort of the cybersecurity landscape as of this moment is pretty harrowing, and we want to make sure that people are staying safe and, remaining secure. So
Absolutely.
with that,
Awareness is the first step in that, and that's
awareness,
the point
the
of next
training.
week.
Exactly. So, anyway, I hope everyone likes the stream, and we love doing it. It's really something that we get excited to do every Thursday. It's a super important part of us is getting out and talking about things we think are going to be helpful for both our clients and for people just on the web. So, if you like what we do, please like the YouTube, please subscribe to it, and check us out at thevaliantway.com. I said we love comments and we love any kind of feedback. Anything that anyone feels that the questions you have, we definitely incorporate it into the streams, and we'll give a shout out for it. So really appreciate it. And Matt, thanks for putting together this awesome stream today.
Speaking of shout outs, there is one thing I'm going to just say really quickly because I did skip some of the items that we had on the docket for today.
Yeah, I know time being what it is.
I want to give a shout out to Mike P over in the West Coast. I'm going to bring up
Yes,
next time we do this work. We're going to talk about how we ended up having a conversation. I think it was yesterday, and ended up embedding the Rust and Paint SharePoint directly into Microsoft Teams as a tab to bring it
exactly.
further into everything else that's going on.
Uh,
And I kind
yes,
of I unfortunately skipped over that because I didn't want us to go too far over time, but that will be
right.
in there, and that's actually part of what I would consider to be collaboration with other businesses just like ours.
Correct.
It's me having conversations and us helping each other and ideas coming back and forth. And I wanted to make sure I got that out because it actually made a part of it contributed to exactly what we did today and where it went and where
Yep.
it's going to go next. So, with
Yep.
all that said, everyone I hope has a great day. Maybe a little bit more sun than we have in the New East, Northeast, and I think at that point now the words are getting tied. It's time to go.
Time to go. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Like, subscribe, and hope to see you. I'll see you next Thursday. Bye now. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.